Today is April 6th. It's about 1:09 Austin time, and this would be day 4 of this practice series. It's a bit of a rainy day here in Austin, so we have some dramatic lighting happening probably. And I don't know exactly what I want to practice specifically just yet today, and that happens at times. I took a few moments just now playing around, and I have a sense of what I like to practice, which is a little bit more left-hand independence. And combining that with right-hand finger picking, but finger picking on open strings. Kind of like a piano, where keeping an ostinato in one hand and the left hand, the melodic hand, playing freely without the right hand. So I have an idea of some things I want to do with that. I'm not 100% clear. So what I've decided to begin this practice today, I'm going to do a half hour, and I'm going to allow myself a few minutes just to play without any specifics in mind. So my sense is that'll give me a little bit of clarity of direction to move forward. And let's go ahead and begin. By the way, for those of you who wear watches, this is a diver's watch, which is really handy for practicing because you could set the bezel to mark when you begin, and you could use it as a timer. So I like watches, and I highly recommend wearing watches because being aware of time helps being aware of musical time and vice versa. I'll talk more about that in a future video, but for now, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to just move my fingers around, play, and see what I would come up with, and then after that, I'll have a plan for the rest of the 25. So I have a little bit of insight right now. I want to practice 2 against 3. Triplets possibly in the left hand, 8th notes in the right. Alternating strings. And so I'm just going to go ahead and begin with that, actually. This is a little unstructured, but that's okay as long as we have a direction. So right now my direction is, all right, I'm going to practice keeping 8th notes in my right hand and triplets in my left. I don't know how to do this offhand. This is not something I have in my body just yet. So I'm going to need to sort it out. How do I actually do that? And that's what you'll be joining me right now is, how do I play 2 against 3, eighth notes alternating here, and then triplets here. And so I'm going to begin. And I'm going to set the metronome. And my years of practice tells me I'm probably beginning a little too fast. So I'm going to see where that is, where that tempo is. Which is a nice leisurely 44 beats per minute. So I'm going to bring that down to 40, just a little bit slower. And also called grave, or it's probably grave. Slow as death. First thing, syncing up these eighth notes at 40 beats per minute. Those are triplets, roughly. Eighth notes, triplets. Eighth notes, triplets. Triplets. Eighth notes. So now what I'm going to do is take a 2 against 3 rhythm. And it takes some time for me to calibrate, especially at such a slow tempo that I'm not used to playing. So that's 3 against 2. Right now, the 2 is in my left, 3 is in the right. I'm going to switch it. Bring it back to my hands. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to move the rhythm into the picking pattern. Thumb. So maybe you have a sense of what I'm trying to do. I have this 2 against 3, and I successfully brought the 2 into my fingers. Right now my left hand is still doing the 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm trying to bring that 3 into these 3 notes, as hammer-ons do. So back to it. Then what I'm going to do right now is break it down a little bit at a time. And then back with the beat. So you can see significantly faster than a few moments ago where I had to break it down. So maybe we bring the metronome down to 30, which will take a moment to sink into. This is, by the way, 30 beats per minute is 2 seconds per cycle. So each click is every 2 seconds now. You can hear I'm way ahead of the beat. Now I'm beginning to calibrate. First movement. So you can see, I began getting it, and then I began getting a little fancy, trying to walk up the scale. I'm going to bring the tempo up a little bit. I'm going to bring it up to 40. Eighth notes first. Triplets. Great. So now I'm beginning to get it a little bit. And I've realized now a little bit of a mini aim to do with this. So it's really important. I like to make games out of my practice, have a certain number of cycles that I get in a row until I can move on. So here's what I'm working at right now. 4 times through each position. Right now, so 4 times through leading with the E. If I get that, I move to leading with the F. Now I am in the key of C major. So I get the F, G, A. If I get 4 of that, G, A, B. And my goal will be to get up to the D. And if I get that, then I'm going to work my way back down. Wow, and it's already been 20 minutes of practice. Crazy. That went so fast. Yeah, 20 minutes. Made a mistake, back to the beginning. Made a mistake, back to the beginning. Made a mistake. Made a mistake, but I got to the B, which is the first time that's happened, so that's a good sign. but I'm going to keep going. Back to the beginning. Back to the beginning. Once again, in practicing, just be really honest, humble with yourself. It's okay. Sure, I want to get to that end. There's a part of me that wants to get there. But if I let that part that wants to get there override where I'm at, I'm not present and I'm never going to get there. So be present, be humble. Going back to the beginning is not regression. That's part of this. Everything you do is progression. So repeating something over and over is never regression. Always go back to the beginning. Every time you go back to the beginning of a phrase, you're continually repaving, kind of like paint, coats on a paint, over what you've done. So you're solidifying this as you move forward. You're building a structure. So please, always feel free to go back to the beginning. Here we go. And when you do go back to the beginning, give yourself a chance to tune in again and not just jump in. In Guitar Craft, Guitar Circle, Robert Fripp experience, the difference here would be between starting and beginning. So I'm going to stop talking and begin my last 5 minutes. Back to the beginning. I got further along on that B I've ever gotten. I got a little shaky on that A, and begin again. Oh. Got in on the D sharp. And I got further than I ever got to. Almost got to that D. Let's do it again. I'm getting excited. is drifting. 2 more minutes. Let's get this. Damn it. I'm doing my best not to swear on these videos because when I'm in my own personal practice, I notice that I swear a lot and it's probably not serving me. And I certainly don't want to bring that energy into this video. But every now and then you might catch me with one and I'm not going to edit them out because I want these to be raw and honest. So if you're offended by one of those words, I'm sorry. Okay, so every time I get to the A is when I start to mess up. I've done that fewer times because every time you go back to the beginning, you're doing this much more times. But when I get to the G the next time, I'm going to double down on my attention. Some might call concentration, but attention is a better word here, more appropriate word if you really understand what attention is. And I'm going to double it down into that and see if I can get to that D before I complete today. I came back at the D sharp. Notice I'm closing my eyes as I'm doing this, and it has been a half hour. So I'm going to try it one more time, and if I don't get it, I don't get it in this half hour. Let's go. Cheated. I'm going to keep on going. But not it. I started opening my eyes, preparing for that D. It threw me off. And that's where we are at the end of the half hour. Of course, I will probably continue practicing this because I'm getting excited, actually. I'm so close to getting there. I hope this video has shown you a process where I could not do this in the beginning. I wasn't pretending not to be able to do this in the beginning. I didn't know how yet. My body didn't know. I didn't know the internal alignment that I needed to do to play 2 against 3, alternating ostinato, thumb first hand, hammer on triplets, left hand. My inner connections were not connected. So you got a chance to see the beginning of that process from not being able to do something to being able to get really close to my aim for today in the half hour, really close. So let that be a good lesson and an observation for you in your own practice, is that It may not happen at the beginning. In fact, it usually doesn't, especially when we're learning something new. And part of my aim and intention for these videos, to record these sessions, is to practice things that are at my edge or even a little bit beyond. So you get to watch me struggle. And most importantly, what's my process to get there? And when I teach, this is the process I'm teaching. I do find that the process itself is quite universal. And I'm going to break it down more in future videos, but a little teaser of what that process is. It's a way to organize the internal awarenesses with the notes. And there's a lot more to say about that, but it's organizing the internal awarenesses with the individual notes and noticing if any time we're not doing what we would like to do, it's some disorganization. The hands don't quite know where to go. The mind is not quite clear of the pattern. They're not quite talking together in a way that is harmonious, and disruptions happen. So we're organizing awarenesses with our practice. And with that, just to share some observations that I had while I practice, as I mentioned in previous videos, at the end of a practice session with students, I always encourage them to share observations, awarenesses, noticings, things that came up during the practice. So for me, a couple things that came up. The beginning of this was, wow, I am not able to do this. And finding shame is a heavy word, but possibly a touch of embarrassment about knowing I'm filming a video and exposing a weakness, let's just say. At least my perception of a weakness. Now, I know this is story, and this is actually all coming from an egoic place of not wanting to be seen, not doing something well. So recognizing that was the beginning. I was like, okay, I am in a vulnerable place sharing something. And, and as a musician, I pride myself in playing well, especially publicly. So it's vulnerable to be in a public setting and sharing something that not only am I not quite good at, but something I actually am not able to do. And stories of that I have in my head about how a musician should be, and I should be able to do this, and does that mean I'm not a good musician, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that was the beginning of it. And I was able to not get hung up in that, because that would have been a disaster. I was able just to let that go and focus in on what do I need to do. I noticed that I began trying to get it through the eighth notes, and that wasn't quite happening. But when I switched to the triplets first, then I was able to get it into the groove, and then my body began to take over. And then there was one moment in particular. I was around the A, and I felt the groove in my body. And I remember my head kind of nodded, because I felt a sense of relaxation, because I could trust my body at that point to play. Whereas before, it took a lot more keeping the attention of the pattern here, so my body knows where to go. And then it was like the information got downloaded, and the groove and the music began taking over. And then that became fun. And then I got so close, and even while I was ending, there's a part of me that said, I probably should just keep going and really get that piece. And I most likely will outside of the video, but I want to make this video clean and clear. And that I said I was going to do a half hour. And I did a half hour. So when you set yourself up to do a time, if you choose, you can always go longer if you want, but be really clear about that's what that is, and be okay with what happens during that. So I got really close to getting there. Previous videos, the aim that I didn't get as close as I got today. So there's another practice of humility, of self-acceptance, and trusting that when we practice, the time, energy, the attention that we put in a practice session is, in a sense, going in a bank within us that accumulates. It increases interest. There's an ROI, or return on investment. And this investment happens to be time investment, energy investment, attention investment, choice investment, because for this past half hour, I could have been scrolling social media. I could have been doing something that might not have any return. So I invested that choice for the half hour to be there with this. I invested my attention for the half hour into internal awarenesses. And I invested the half hour itself to practice so that in the future, I'll be able to do more than I can. And this is less about being able to do more, at least from my perspective. It's more about developing and practicing the inner alignment so music can flow more freely and I can experience more freedom in the moment, both with music and in life, because practicing a musical instrument, especially this way, the musical instrument we're really practicing is our being. And that goes a long way in many ways, which I will share in future videos. In the meantime, if you like this, please subscribe to this channel. That really helps the algorithm get its rhythm. Share this with other people who might enjoy it. And I can't wait to share more content with you in the future. So thank you so much for your attention, your choice to be here. I hope this was helpful for you in some way. Thank you.